All right, good evening. I hope everyone is well. Hope and pray that all is well. Hope you all had a wonderful day today. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I don't know. I don't plan on being on long this evening, but I was just thinking about something. I don't have any solid answers. I guess it would be more or less just something to think about. What do you think? How would you handle it? What would you do? But I had been hearing like some readings and people saying that these people who have attacked you and blah blah blah, wanting to befriend you. I have been hearing that for a while, wanting to come back and befriend you and blah blah blah. And I was just thinking about that, like, would a person honestly, allow someone back in their life, who has done. Now, we're not talking about, I mean, in relationships, people make mistakes, you know, choices. People get hurt in relationships that are genuine. I mean, that's just a part of human beings relating to one another. People come from their own background, how they view the world. It's going to be how you view the world and understand things is going to be different than another person. And sometimes people make choices in relationships that can be hurtful to another. That's where, but we're talking about genuine relationships. You hopefully you can, if you love the person, and if you're, and I'm not talking romantic relationships. I'm just talking about relationships. Period. That can be romantic, platonic, parental, to a child, so on and so forth. Just relationships across the world, even work relationships. Um, so when people have relationships with one another, naturally, sometimes given the fact that we all come from a different uh, a view, the way we view the world can be different. Then so many factors. You talk about your zodiac signs and your birth charts, and all that goes into that, and then where you're from, how you was raised, and it's so much that goes into the making of just one human being. You know what I'm saying? So you can't really expect another human being to see the world, understand the world exactly like you do. You know, or to respond to things in the way that you would. So there's often going to be, well, I don't know if I should use the word often, but there is going to be at some point, some given time in a relationship, a breakdown of communication, understanding. um they always say communication is like the most important thing in a relationship, to communicate. And then you have people who communicate differently. Some people are talkers. They're going to communicate. They're going to tell you verbally, whatever it is they're feeling, they're thinking, so on and so forth. Then you have some people who they don't talk. They're not real open with talking. They will keep things inside. However, they might communicate another way. They may not verbally state how they feel about something, but they might do something. They might do something. It'll show in their actions. So you got that aspect. And then you have what is that book? I never read it, but people were on it for a while. The five love languages, how people express love differently, touch, gifting, so on and so forth. Then you have the thing about even when people may communicate verbally, then you have listening, which is a part of communication, but not just listening to hear words. They talk about that you don't want to listen just to hear the person's words, just so you can speak your point. You want to really hear what is being said, so that you can effectively interact with one another. Got a thunderstorm warning coming through. Okay, so I don't know. I think that might have froze for a second. I think I'm still on. I'm pretty sure I am. But anyway, so wait a minute. I want to make sure everything. Okay, so you those are just a few things that we think about, that we have to think about when we are in relationship with others. Okay, that's that. Now that is coming from a place of people who are having genuine relationships. And when I say genuine, hell, they could be genuinely bad. But what I mean is with no malicious intent, toward another person. Okay. And I don't know, unfortunately, it just seems like that's where the world is right now. A lot of malicious intent toward another person that you are in. I don't understand that. Like, if you don't like someone, why would you be in a relationship with them? Whatever the relationship is. It would seem that if you don't like someone, then you just let them go on their merry way. But that's a whole nother thing. But nevertheless, so have been listening to some readings. It's been a number of weeks now, and I've been hearing that from various readers as a theme, and I was just like, who would allow someone who has maliciously and viciously attacked them back in their life? Well, we see it all the time. We see it with I'll just say spouses. I don't want to just say women. Spouses have been abused. I mean, we can be severe abuse by their spouse, and they either stay with the person, or if they have separated, they allow the person back into their life. It happens in friendships, quote unquote, which what we call that a friendship, but it happens where people have been maliciously attacked uh, intentionally. We're not talking about, okay, I just lost myself, lost control of myself, and no, intentionally plotting and planning, so on and so forth, to maliciously hurt and harm, and intentionally hurt and harm this person, another person that they are in some kind of relationship with. Um, uh, Children may do it to their parents, parents do to their children. It happens all the time. So even as I'm talking about it now, it's like, I didn't think of that angle. I was just thinking of the angle of, if someone is doing all of the death spells and the black magic, and they're trying to steal your destinies and all of the bullshit, why would you allow that person, they say, I've been hearing readers say, and I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm just saying I've been hearing them say, now this person who's done all of these evil, egregious things to you wants to try to uh, come back in your life. Now, sometimes I've heard them say things like they want to come back in because they need to get close to try to siphon your energy. They want to finish off what they started. They got to win, that type of shit. You will hear. I've heard the person might need help, and need help from the very person who they sought to stamp out. Um, Things like that. And I'm just thinking, like, my thoughts was, regardless, to give my own personal experience, I wouldn't, yeah, just to say it plainly, I kind of feel like I wouldn't give a fuck what their issue is or what they need. You understand what I'm saying? Ain't no way in hell you come back over this way. I mean, I believe in self-preservation. My dad, I remember my dad, um, was he married 4 times? My dad was married 4 times. I haven't talked to my dad in a few years. I don't know if he's gotten married again or anything like that, but the last time I had talked to him up to that date, he had had 4 wives. You know, my dad was a looker, okay, and a plethora of girlfriends, okay, and women in his life. His third wife, when I was in graduate school in Atlanta, he lived in Stone Mountain, which was in Atlanta, and his third wife, of course, they were separated and divorced. When I was in graduate school, I went to graduate school in Atlanta, so I spent a lot of time with my dad, and I spent time with his third wife, who was his ex-wife at the time, and we would go out to eat lunch, lunch and everything, and she would share some things with me, and I would go to my dad and be like, well, mention her, and did you think about, because it seemed as though he can only say for sure. I'm only speaking from my perspective, from the outside looking in, based off of the relationship that I remember from what I saw. Because mind you, I never, well, I lived with them one time for like a month. Okay, but I was young. I was college, in my college years. But so I didn't know the ins and outs of their relationship. But I did know at the time that he had been married to her the longest. She was very, very much, from what I saw, um, what would the word be? Kind of a doting type of a wife. They both worked. When they came home from work, she immediately went in that kitchen, fixed them some food, fixed them some drink. They relaxed. They coddled each other, talked to one another. She kept, and he lived in a big, beautiful home. She kept the house immaculate, um, very clean, very clean, and it seemed as though, from what I remember from the lady who raised me, that when he did marry her, according to what the lady who raised me, according to what she shared with me, he became more active and purposefully active in me and my siblings' life than he had been. I mean, he was always there, but he was more present, more active. Well, who told me? Did she tell me that when they got married, I didn't even know. We didn't even know that he got married. My dad was just my dad. That, he was doing his thing. And she shared with me when I was much older that when they got married, she said to him, what about your children? Whatever the conversation was, we came up, and he said to her, I don't have time. you know. And I guess I should laugh, but shit, that was his attitude. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got time. My dad was very worldly man. Very attractive. Was making good money, living high. You know what I'm saying? All over the place. So his children was not his focus, okay, and he made that clear to her. I ain't got time. I ain't got time. And I can see my dad saying that to her. His facial expressions and everything. I look a lot like my dad, okay, but his facial expressions and everything. When I say I look a lot like my dad, it's just certain features that I have. This side note. One time I went to the Mac counter at one of the malls here, and I let them give me a full face. You know what I'm saying? I looked in the mirror. The lady said, "How you like it?" I was like, I look like my dad with makeup on. And my features, some of my features and everything are a lot like his, and his side of the family. Okay, but nevertheless, um, so I can see him saying that to her, you know, just innocently, like, hey, And she told me that she said to him, well, if you don't have time for your children, you don't have time for me, you know, which I give her all kudos and props for that because, there are women out there who glad that the man don't have time for his children, okay? They don't want the children around, all right? They want that man all to their fucking self, all right? But anyway, so I would talk to my dad. I was able to spend a lot of quality time with him when I was in a graduate school. I'd talk to my dad and be like, what about? I'm not gonna say her name, because he was single, you know, still living in that big house, okay, by himself, and I would spend a lot of time with him. And I'd be like, well, Dad, why don't you? Because when I first got to Atlanta, well, I want to say he had a girlfriend. I don't know if that was his girlfriend. I just know that that was a lady that he was spending time with, and I don't even know if it was a year later. She passed from cancer. So my dad was single for a while, which was kind of new, because I had always known my dad to have a lady friend, um, always. I'm sure I didn't meet all of them. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so I would talk to him about his third wife because I would have, lunch with her. And when I was younger, I really didn't care for her too much. You know what I'm saying? I think they thought that I thought she was trying to steal him from me. No, she just talked a lot and it got on my nerve. Period. You know, nothing against her though. She was a lovely woman. Her coming in at that time, we were teens. Me and my sibling were teens. I think I was about 14 years old. So her coming in to his life again, he became much more active in her life. The lady who raised me told me that that's when he started, sending money regularly for us. And when I got older, I said that could have been her money. But nevertheless, because she stated, if you don't have time for them, you don't have time for them. Any lady who raised me told me that when she came in his life, he was much more active, much more present, showed much more, a lot more interest in his children. But anyway, I would talk to him about her and be like, what about such and such? Why don't you, she still loves you, this, that, and the other. My dad said to me, And I was like, well, why? She took care of you. When I did stay here with you that time, she always made, she did the wife thing. She did that shit. And she was an excellent, god damn, she was an excellent cook. Even though when I was young, I thought she was like, well, she just talks too much. You know what I'm saying? But her cooking was fucking, just phenomenal. Excellent cook. It was only one thing she made that I didn't care for. It was rum cake because I didn't like rum, and it would be like drenched in rum. And he'd be like, everybody love her rum cake, And I was like, well, Dad, I don't like it. You know what I'm saying? It's too much rum, and I don't like rum. I don't like the taste of it. Anyway, my grandmother, his mother, made rum cake. I liked hers, because it wasn't so overpowering. But I had never had. She made this pie called chess pie. I had never had it before, and I have since seen it like maybe once or twice on YouTube. And she was telling me the ingredients and how you had to be really precise because you could easily burn it. That shit was so fucking good. She was just an excellent cook. But anyway, and my dad prided himself on being a good cook. But she doted on him, made sure the house clean, all of that. So, and then I'm seeing him single, and I was like, I've always known my dad to have a woman in his life. Him not having one there, it did give me probably, here go Nat, one of Scruffy's children. She just won't leave me alone. But anyway, um, so it did give me time to, spend a lot of time with him, just me and him, which was really nice because I had never had that before. Even if it wasn't a woman, then my sibling was there, but that wasn't the case. It was just me and him. So that was some nice time spent. Um, and he said, and I said, well, why not? And he said, you know, he said, I don't go back. And I was like, what you mean? He said, mm-mm, I only move forward. I don't go back. I don't go back. And I was like, what you mean you don't go back? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, what happened? Well, I don't know if I asked him exactly what happened because I knew he wasn't gonna tell me, the specifics of what happened, but he did. I think I asked him something along, was it that bad? Hell, you was married to her longer than anybody. And he was just saying that he felt like, when a relationship is over, when he has ended a relationship with someone, I mean, they stayed friends, I'm sure, but in terms of romantic relationship, that he just was like, no, it wasn't a thing of what he did share a couple things, that happened. Um, but it wasn't, what he shared with me wasn't anything that was so outrageous. But again, it could have been more. I'm his daughter. He won't tell me everything. And of course, she shared a couple things with me. You know what I'm saying? But of course, no, neither one of them went in any kind of crazy depth. But she loved him. It was clear that she loved him when we would go out to eat and we would talk. And I just felt that he needed a woman in his life, even though he had all that and I enjoyed my time with him and everything. When there was no one there but me and him, I could talk freely and get to know him better and he get to know me better. And I still felt like, he need a nice woman, but not any old woman, okay? Because he did get married at my was it the end of my last year in graduate school. She was a nice lady. Okay, he had known her all his life, but she was not who that the third wife was in any way. And I just felt he asked me to, he said, I was sitting there with both of them, and he said, we think about getting married. What you think? And I was like, well, I really don't want to tell you what I think, you know. And he was like, no, tell me what you think. And I told him, I don't think you should get married. Y'all dating right now. Isn't that enough? You know what I'm saying? But he was determined he wanted to have a wife, and I understand. I felt like he needed a woman there with him. Um, and even though his third wife, when I was younger, I didn't care for her too much. I did see how much she loved him and cared for him. And to me, that was what mattered. And I got to know her a little bit more on my own as well because they were divorcing. Me and her would often, go out to lunch and just talk and chat. And so it wasn't like he was saying that he didn't want to be back with her because it was just such a terrible situation and she did A, B, C, and D and, wasn't no, they couldn't get back together and all of that type of thing. No. It was just seemed like it was this philosophy he had. You know what I'm saying? That, when I'm done with one relationship, I ain't going back. And I forgot exactly how he worded it, but basically that's it. It was just some philosophy that I'm like, well, what is that based on? You know what I'm saying? What is that based on? No, that's just, baby, that's just how I think. That's just how I feel. That's just how I think about it, baby. That's just. And I was like, okay, I can't tell you, what to do, but I know she loves you. And I know she loved you, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. But that's how he felt. And that's what he stuck to. Okay. So I remember growing up, I used to hear people say that a person can change. Okay. People change. People grow, people change. And when I do these videos and I talk about what the things that I heard people say when I was growing up, because some of those things I don't hear no more. You know what I'm saying? And I look at the society and whatnot and just how much things have changed in the world, okay, in my little 53 years. And then I began to hear people say, people don't change. People don't change. They only change if they want to. What I started hearing. They only change if they want to. Okay. And then it was this kind of thing that you might hear some people say, and they don't want to. Most people don't want to change. Okay. They're going to stay the same. And it just became a thing of people don't change. I remember thinking at one point to myself, well, damn, which is it? You know what I'm saying? They used to say, people can change. People can change. Okay? And people change. Then it became, they don't change. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I would sit up there and listen to these things and be like, what philosophies do people live by? Because is it a thing where the majority of people are feeling like people can change. Now, for whatever reason, we got a new thought in the world. People don't change. Okay. So I just wonder, like, when I hear some of these things and these readings about all the egregious shit people have done to people and they're trying to kill them, take their life and their destinies and insurance policies and kill them for that and blah, 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 the death spells and all of that kind of thing, and the things that I've personally dealt with, you know, because I've completely walked away. Self-preservation, me first. Okay. And you ain't gonna treat me like I'm some trash for some paper money, you know. Bye. You understand what I'm saying? Be well in your bullshit. So I just wonder, like, how many people, I mean, would people actually, I'm talking about something to that extreme, would you actually allow those people back in your life in any way? Sometimes I've seen people, like, personally, have some kind of relationship. Again, I'm not necessarily talking about romantic. I'm not talking about sleeping together. I mean, just interaction, continuous interaction with someone who they say has done some horrendous things to them. And I see them still talking to them. And I be thinking to myself, why are you even talking to that person? Like, and usually they be fussing and cussing at each other, you know. Why? Or you try. I've heard I will be there hearing the conversation of you trying to, you're rehashing old shit. They're not succumbing to what you're saying, or not listening, or don't give a fuck. You're not succumbing to it, but it goes on and on and on and on for years. And I just was like, why? You know, why would you do that? I used to, I'd be a person, I could cut, back in the day, I could cut a person off in a heartbeat, snip, relationship over. Yeah. You do something, I'm kind to you, nice to you, decent with you, and, you want to test, don't do that. You understand what I'm saying? Don't do that. Because I don't feel like, storm coming, so you see the lights flash, your power might go out. So why would you test a person in that way? You know, if you are, if you choose to interact with someone, you choose to have a relationship with them, a friendship with them, why would you test that person? Why? And I'm not talking about from the standpoint, you don't know who they are. They might be the great ascended master. They may be God himself. I'm not even talking from that standpoint, whatever. I'm talking about the fact that they're just another human being. Why would you, so, the golden rule, treat people the way you want to be treated. And one of the Eastern philosophies, religions, it is, don't treat someone the way you don't want to be treated. Kind of the same, but said in a different way. Why would you do that? You know, um, what's, why? I never understood it. And then I would hear some people say that, some people think that you're going to accept them back because, or they can do these things to you because you're maybe a family member and they know you're going to forgive them. Well, what makes them think that? Well, I know. People say blood is thicker than water. That's your brother. That's your cousin. That's your mother. That's your soul. You know? That's not a not love thing. You know, sometimes what they say, sometimes you have to love a person from a distance because you should be taking care of yourself first. You shouldn't allow someone in your world, in your realm, who is going to mistreat you, and you just continue to take it. You know, um, but even still, why would a person feel the need to? I'm gonna mistreat this motherfucker right here. I'm gonna mistreat this bitch right here, and I'm just gonna keep doing it, and doing it. They just gonna let me keep coming back in. Why would you even think like that? What is that all about? You know what I'm saying? But definitely, definitely, why would I mean, would you? Now I don't have the comments open. You know what I'm saying? Just some food for thought. You know, if you are one of those people who have been, because yeah, like I was saying, when I was younger, you know, it wasn't no thing to me. You don't treat me like that. Fuck it, relationship over. Well, mm-mm. And you know, of course, people want to tell me here and there that ain't right. That ain't right. Okay, so I said, okay, well, let me try to be right. You know, and then I would give people chances and chances and it would be the same shit over and over again. No change. I had one person sit on my steps, bawling their fucking eyes out. You my only friend. You and such as my best friend. Well, and then the bitch came through and did some more crazy ass shit. Okay, fuck it. You know, and I'm not one to, especially at an adult age. No, there's no conversation to be had. You know what the fuck you did. Go play in the sandbox and throw sand in somebody else's eye. Really, you shouldn't do that to nobody. Okay? Take the sand out of your eye so you can see your bullshit. You know. Um, but my thought used to be like, I don't give a fuck. It's millions of people in the world. Is how many people in the fucking world? That was just how I thought. It's so many people in the world. You don't have to. I feel like you don't have to stick with just that one person. You know what I'm saying? And that one person that is doing you any old kind of way, mistreating you and all of that type of thing. Fuck it. Move on. You know? Uh, you know, like they may say nowadays, you know, find your soul tribe or whatever, or just find people who are decent. You know, love yourself. You don't have to put love of nobody before you love yourself. What they say, when mama happy, everybody happy, goddamn. Love you. You know? And then when you're in alignment with yourself, then those, you know, when you are in alignment with yourself. And sometimes we have to bump our heads and be in those various types of relationships, you know, those dark relationships for our eyes to be open, or our eye here to be open, you know, to see, you know, and self-love, and then be in alignment with self, you know, and then those right relationships can come into play. I remember a lady who raised me, she told me, and she's damn sure right about it. That lady gave me a lot of wisdom, but one thing she told me, she was like, you know, you're going to find in your lifetime, you know, true friends. True, because we be seeing all these videos. Here come the bitch. This motherfucker been ain't been in my face the whole night until I come up on fucking line. As a bitch, you know, I would never ever. Okay? But anyway, so what was I saying? Oh, the friends went out on vacation and beat their friend ass and killed them. It was never your fucking friends. Never a friend, you know. Now, I'm not going to do it tonight. I would say let's Google the definition of friendship, but it's gonna be some bullshit, you know, because like what would they say back in the day about what is a true friend? You know, what is a friend? And I remember I was in college. I was probably not college, high school. I was probably about like 15, 16. You know, I remember exactly where we were. She had a little Astro minivan. It was gray. It had a red stripe and a blue stripe, like a turquoise color stripe rather. And we were on this street called Noble. What were we? Maybe Noble and Montecito. Okay. Let me see. I kept trying to end the stream or whatever. Okay, but anyway, I'm just gonna continue. I don't know if people are watching or not, but I'm just gonna finish it out. So I remember we were on Noble and Monticello. We were on Noble. Was we on Noble? Yeah, we were on Noble and Monticello, going up towards Cleveland. I don't remember where we were going, but I was just talking and I was just saying to her. I keep checking. I was saying to her, my friend this, my friend that, my friend this one and that one. And she stopped me. She said, "You know what, Nikki?" She said, "You think everybody is your friend." And I don't know. I stopped and like, well, what? You know, because like I said, I was about 16 years old. And I said, "What you mean?" She said, and she didn't say to me that them girls ain't your friend. I mean, she didn't do any of that. She just said, you're gonna find in your life that if you can, your true friends, if you can count them on one hand, you're doing real good. And I didn't have a response. I don't remember. They'd be like, okay, I don't remember asking her what she meant. I might have asked her what she meant. Shit, I don't remember. I just remember that part. And it wouldn't be like me to not say, what do you mean? I need, give me what you're saying to me here. You know what I'm saying? And over time, over years, I always remembered that, her saying that to me. And I know she had to give me some explanation of what she meant.